how do I frame this? How do I speak about it properly? In terms of sort of tragedies and brutal violence, I've been and seen many violent acts that would probably haunt a grown man, and for me it was one of them where when I was a kid it never really used to bother me.
Yes, Jonno.
We need people like Jonno. It's an old mentality. A war horse, god of war as he calls himself, and he comes to fight.
The JCB was a guy who first of all wanted to be the most exciting fighter in the UK. I wasn't interested in winning or losing or anything. I just wanted to go in and just have really crazy fights. That was my thing. Muay Thai in Manchester is such a big scene because the two main trainers that came from Thailand originally to the UK, Master Toddy and Master Sken, they both came to Manchester, and that sort of also caused almost like a conflict as well, where Toddy's gym and Sken's gym, they were the two gyms that sort of, it's almost like, you know, when you get two high schools that are quite near each other. It was kind of like that, as far as I've been told. Obviously I wasn't around during that time. And then the offshoots from all of their students started creating some really good gyms. So you've got loads of top gyms in Manchester. You've got GFC, you've got 2Tech, you've got MFA, which is my gym. So I think it comes down to the initial migration of the east to the west in terms of Muay Thai was in Manchester, and then a lot of the students they got, you know, fortunately for the sort of instructors were very good, and they made a good impact on the scene.
And you say it's a rough place in parts to grow up. Talk to me about you growing up in Manchester, what your experience was.
Oh God, well it was yin and yang, my experience. So my younger life was sort of, how do I frame this? How do I speak about it properly? So the tragedies that I experienced when I was young, they started when I was very young. So my best friend when I was 7, he died, unfortunately. I'd seen by the time I was 13, maybe like 4 or 5 dead bodies. The first proper dead body I saw was a frozen bum, which was bizarre. I was in a place called Denton, a homeless man, and I walked up to him and so I was staring, and it was surreal, to be honest, because it didn't upset me. It just felt almost like a movie. I've seen many things like that growing up in Manchester. That's just aside from the idea of when I was growing up, me and my family weren't always in the best sort of positions financially, so we grew up in high crime rate areas. A lot of my friends were criminals. A lot of the people who we all hung around with were criminals. You know, my dad himself, his past before he got on the right path wasn't the best. But luckily we always stayed together as a family, me, my sister, my mum and my dad, and we were able to hold strong through those times and then come out at the end of them. But in terms of sort of tragedies and brutal violence, when I was 13, for example, I was been in pub fights where knives are flying about. I've been and seen many violent acts that would probably haunt a grown man, and for me it was one of them where when I was a kid it never really used to bother me. It just sort of seemed natural to me. And that's just scratching the surface, to be honest, in terms of sort of gangland affiliations, crime and sort of savagery that sort of predominated my childhood.
We're doing the stairs today. It's probably get 5 sets up and down in the 3 minutes, 5 times. This is probably the worst thing we do, and it's horrible, but that's what we're doing.
The one thing that really changed me as a child is we were very poor at a certain point as a family, and I remember we were in need of money. I think I was 16 at the time. So I was like, right, I'm gonna go and do something about this. No, I wasn't, a bit younger, maybe 13. I was 13 at the time, sorry. I'm gonna go do something about it. So I went and I robbed a house, robbed this house. nothing really big out of it, like a PlayStation 2, which is worth a bit of money at the time, some games, a few phones or whatever. And I brought it back to my family and I was like, check this out, let's go and sell this, at least now we can go and get some food and stuff in it. And my dad made me go take it back. He was proper pissed off with me. He made me go break back into the house and put it all back perfectly. And he said, if they're there, you're gonna knock on the door and you're gonna go and tell them what you've done and you're gonna apologise, and if they phone the police, that's on you, you know what I mean? Luckily they weren't there, so I was able to break back into the house, put it all back and then close it all, and nobody ever knew. But for me, that was a turning point where you see somebody can grow up in a really bad circumstance and sort of follow that line because they just think it's the right way. Maybe they don't have the guidance. Or some people can see a situation like that and they'll go, I'm never gonna have that happen to me. Yeah, for me, that was the real turning point where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be a bad person and do those types of things, because luckily my dad was there to sort of steer me on the right road at the right time.
It's not that cool.
Talking about 16 years in the game.
16 years in the game, eh?
Talk to me about what is or who is the JCB.
The JCB was a guy who first of all wanted to be the most exciting fighter in the UK. I wasn't interested in winning or losing or anything. I just wanted to go in and just have really crazy fights. That was my thing. I just wanted to go in, like, have fights. Most of my younger fights of the night. I'm talking probably like 70%. Or even on big shows in the end, when I was getting on big shows, my still fight of the night with world titles above it. Because my whole thing was I just want to have a scrap. I'd always try and sort of knock people out, and sort of where my name originated from in that sense was I was fighting a kid from Bad Company called George Berry. Very good fighter, very talented kid, and I have a lot of respect for George. And I never really used to have a guard when I was young. My hands were just here. It's almost like a truck on, you know what I mean? And walked at him, dogged him down the whole fight. It's a fit kid. It took me 4 rounds to get to him, and the 5th round to really put it on him to do some damage so that I could win. And afterwards he leant over the ropes, he was knackered before the results, and I went over to him to give him a hug and he went, it was like fighting a fucking JCB, that. And it stuck from there. It was never a big deal for me as a younger guy. That sounds crazy, right? But like, I'd be going to college and I'd be sort of going to, started in like the end of high school, but I'd be from high school to college and through and all that, I'd be studying and I'd just be like training bits with my old man, and then we'd just go and have a fight. And for me, there wasn't no big distinctions between sort of A class, B class. I didn't really care about any of that because I said all the stuff that I'd sort of already seen. For me, it was in a ring, it was a fight. It wasn't really important in like a scary sense. I just liked to fight. And that's the road me and him decided to go down. And the real time I sort of started to get lasered into it was we had an A-class fight against Darryl O'Callaghan, and I drew with him, and he just fought a ranked fighter, and the rankings had just started to become, used to be printed in the back of a magazine called Fighters Magazine, and I always used to look at it and think, who is this guy, maybe Google him, YouTube him, whatever, who's this person, watch this guy, look at how good he is, wow, one day I might be there. And then when I got near that echelon of fighter, I was like, right, I'm getting in them rankings now, and I'm going to get in them before, sort of like, I want to do it when I'm 18, that was my goal. So that sort of spurred me on to train harder, me and my old man to push, try and get harder fights. And I did get ranked right before I turned 19. So I did achieve that goal and get the little printing of my name in the rankings from the back of the magazine. Hilariously, that was the last issue of that magazine before it discontinued. So if it would have been a month later, I wouldn't have got it. But I got it.
Yeah, well done, boys.
Go and kick some clubs out.
See you at the gym. See you
I'm just going to impose my will on him the way I do everybody. I reckon when I land on him, I land those shots upon his head, I think he'll feel different about it. He's fought some okay fighters. He's strong, he's a strong fighter, he's good, he's sharp, but like, I don't think he's fought anybody of my quality apart from Bendon, and I think that will show when I fight him. When I start landing my hands, he won't want any of it. If he's coming forward, like he normally comes forward, I reckon I'm going to knock him out. And if he sort of tries to stand off and lets me pick my shots, I'll wear him down and I'll finish him. It's a 3-round fight. I like 3-round fights. I can go crazy in them, especially my fitness is so good at the moment. I'm so strong, I'm so sharp. I'm just gonna fucking put it on him, and I'm gonna keep putting it on him until he don't want it no more. And if he does still want it, we're gonna have fight of the year, I reckon. Because like I said, watching him, it's hard to sort of judge how good he is by the caliber of opponents he's fought, because a lot of them look crap. But I don't think he's crap. I think he's very good and very strong. And I think he's just not been through the mill like I have. And when I drag him into that deep water, when I drag him through that mill, he's gonna know my name and he's not gonna forget it in a fucking hurry. Trust me on that. That's my plan. Yes!
Let's just call it the fight promotion angle.
Yeah.
Where you do more often than not play the heel, play the bad guy.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
That just came from necessity originally, because I always used to try and pick fights, but not really. I always tried to be respectful about it, but people never really took it respectfully. I didn't really like it, and so then I kind of got that reputation as being sort of like a crazy guy. And when I was young, I was doubly that, because every show I'd be at, I'd have like a bottle of Jack Daniels in my hand. I'd be just like shouting at everybody. I'd be running about, going crazy, having fun. Not like mean or malicious with it, but you know, quite liberal with the way I acted. You know what I mean? And in my resurgence in this latter part of my career, again I got that pushback where I felt people sort of weren't giving me the credit I deserved, you know, because not many people have done what I've done in this game really. And I thought, instead of pushing against it like I always used to, and instead of trying to sort of prove to them that it's never worked anyway. I've had times where I've had great wins, and nobody cared. It wasn't like they thought I was a nice guy anymore or anything. It didn't justify anything. So I thought, all right, cool. I'll play that role then.
I spend a lot of time with him day in, day out, and I kind of like try and mirror what I see and what I see, and then I try and do it. So for him, it's like he's a warrior, you know what I mean? When he fights, he just fights, you know what I mean? And it's like nothing can really stop us. We're just there to fight, and we push forward, and that's it. You know
Nothing can stop us.
Nothing.
I'd fought Darren O'Connor in my second to last fight before I retired, and he gave me an orbital blowout fracture, and I had to have an operation on that. I had to go be put under for 8 hours and have a proper operation put upon me. I was sort of at a loose end with life anyway, to be honest. I must have been 20 at the time, roughly around that age, and this is when my ex-girlfriend, she had a tumultuous situation too happen in her life, so we decided to go travelling together. We go, let's just get away, right? She ended up falling pregnant. Wasn't planned, not ideal, but I'm so glad it happened because of my children, my 2 beautiful children. I couldn't ask for better children, but she ended up getting pregnant. When we came back, we started to set a life up together, and I thought, I still want to fight, but obviously it's difficult when you've got that going on. But I thought, I'll give it a go, innit? I'll try. And I fought a guy called Bartek Miacic, who's a really good fighter. He beat a lot of good British fighters, a lot of ranked fighters. And I beat him, I outpointed him, but I wasn't the JCB anymore. I sort of just schooled him and fooled him up, and didn't really want to hurt him, or I didn't want to be hurt. And it was sort of, my ex-girlfriend at the time was pregnant near the ring. I was worried about my eye. There's a lot of different emotions going on. So I thought, you know what, it's probably best, if I don't think I have this anymore, probably best to knock it on the head. And I didn't fight then for like 3-4 years. I've always been an extremely inquisitive person, and I found a few philosophers where I was like, oh, these guys think really differently, and I want to understand the way they think. And my brain sort of quite easily could sort of digest it. So to take the place of fighting, I guess I then pushed it into reading, where I'd be reading like 6 hours a day, heavy philosophy books, not ones that if I passed it to the average person, they could understand. I'm talking high academic stuff. And I used to speak to this guy, my 2 main friends in the field was a guy called Julian Bagini, who is a Guardian author. He writes for the Guardian newspaper as well, op-ed stuff. And Alex Rosenberg, who is a great debater, and he is the head philosophy professor still at Duke University. And at one point, me and him were going back and forth, me and Alex, on something. I had a book deal at the time as well, with like Lawrence Krauss and Richard Dawkins were in it, and stuff like this. And me and Rosenberg were going back and forth, and he was like, you know what, man, you're onto something there, maybe, you know. Let me come to your offices, we'll have a drink and stuff, and we'll talk about it, innit? Little did he know I was just like a 21-year-old drunk in my room, you know what I'm saying? He had no idea. When I told him, he was like, what? Where did you study? I went, I ain't studied. I've been a fighter all my life, innit? And he was like, oh, fucking get to university. I was like, mate, I'm not doing an undergrad. What's the point in that? I can speak to you. I've read all the books you can imagine I've read them all. The way I got to that point was the reading list for like Cambridge, for Oxford, every single course, it's all online. It's all online, so you can just go, get the books, all right, cool, download them, read them. You've got a degree, basically, you've just not got a piece of paper, innit? So he said, right, like, give me a few days. Then he got back to me, and he said Keele University would be a decent option for me, because they've got a decent sort of philosophical department. So if I wanted, he would write me a reference to let them know that I was beyond the capability of undergrad, or really whatever, and I just wanted to study there. I was a high level sort of thinker in that sense. So Keele then said, yeah, sweet, write us a paper. If we agree the paper's high level enough, we'll offer you a position, whatever that is, we don't know yet. So I was like, all right, cool. I thought there was like a time constraint on it, because I'm dumb. So I was like, I'm getting this done tonight. So I got really high, and I wrote it in like maybe like 3 hours. And they got back to me the next day, and they were like, this is PhD level, this is high level stuff. So yeah, when can you start? From there, literally as I finished that, I was going through a tumultuous thing. I had a bad situation happen to me, which sort of affected me emotionally. And I had a separation with my partner, who I had my kids with. And I'd left there, and I was like, what am I going to do now? I had like maybe a month left, or 2 months to finish my master's dissertation, maybe a bit more than that. So I started fighting again. I thought, okay, let's go back to what I love. I ended up seeing Brendan fight live, and I grabbed the promoter, because it sort of inspired me, and I was like, please, dude, get me a fight. I need to go again. This is what I need. Not been near a gym for 3-4 years, whatever. I was fighting Michael Savas like 8-9 weeks later. It didn't go very well for me, obviously. It's not a great idea doing that off the back of that sort of not training, and he's such an exceptional fighter. And then from then, I mean, I think I fought Keith the same week that I had to give my dissertation in, which was, again, it was a stressful time. But then from there, academia took a back seat, and unfortunately, I don't even really keep up with those relationships much anymore. I message Noam now and again, speak to him. I speak to Rosenberg now and again. But apart from that, I don't really speak to anybody from the academic world. I'm just more now, both feet are in fighting at the moment.
My name's Vinny Shulman. I'm a mind coach stroke hypnotherapist.
We need people like Jonno. It's an old mentality. A war horse, god of war as he calls himself, and he comes to fight.
So you're setting a fire that'll only burn yourself. You have to have that aggressive, moments where you take them out, if you will, but not all the time. It's exhausting, and we've seen evidence of that. So it's not trying, it's putting themselves together. You know why, Jonno? Because it is who you are. You're a nice man. You talk nice, you speak nice. I've never heard you say anything bad about anyone. You're trash talking, which is great for ticket sales, etc. But it's like with you, I mean, you are a good person. So all right, you're a good person who likes punching people and kneeing people in the face. Doesn't take away the fact that you're a good person. So go in there and just be the best you can possibly be. He's better than he lets himself be, and sometimes when we get things in our way, we become our own worst enemy.
Addiction is the quiet voice in your head that tells you bad choices are okay. Addiction can be a positive if it's pushed in the correct way. Not addiction to substances, but addiction to things. And that is the best way, in my experience, to deal with addiction, to replace what you would find with the substances with something more positive. You try to. So anytime I try to stop drinking, I always buy green tea, for example. It sounds trivial, but when I feel like having a drink, I have a green tea instead. It helps. It sounds mad that, but it helps. Little things like that, little coping mechanisms that you can put in place to sort of defend yourself from the beguilement of the demons within you, which just really want to make you say, fuck it, which somebody as smart as I am and as experienced as I am in this now, you would think I would sort of know. I go like loads of people I know have died, seen lives wrecked through it. Why would I still be following that path? But like I said, there's always a little voice in the back of your head saying, you're not like that. You're, you know, come on, you're cool. Christopher Hitchens used to say he always felt he was better on the alcohol. And I would use that. I would say, you know, when a Viking goes to a war, he has a drink or whatever. And obviously that's nonsense, and it's just sort of muddying the waters of the issue and trying to justify it to yourself. There are always low points. For me, life is cyclical in terms of low points and high points, maybe partially because my whole career of fighting and in life has been based on that, and in complete focus on a single goal until I can complete it, which helped me in philosophy, to be fair, because I'd say laser focus, and then when that's done, when it's completed, even if you do really good, even when you win the biggest and coolest fight you ever thought you could win, the down drop to that is such a decompression that's always when my biggest drops come.
Yeah.
What does the mental preparation look like on fight week?
So it used to, before today, look like in times where I'd be alone, I would just generally focus on sort of pain and rage. But this time it's going to be focusing on the better avenues to go down in this fight to win it much easier than it would be if I fought stupidly. So I'm going to fight to the best of my ability by using my intelligence to set traps and then pull this person into space they're not expected to be pulled into, and that's when I'll be able to catch them clean. And I'm not, like Vinny said, and I agree, I'm not really going with the whole plan just to knock the person out. I'm going to pick them apart, and if they end up getting stopped in the middle of that, so be it. If they don't, I'll just school them, cool. That's my plan. I'm winning this fight. Today I did 10 rounds on the bag. I'm gonna get back to the gym now. I'll do some sprints, not loads, maybe like 10. A little bit of skipping, a little bit of stretching, and it slows down now. The work's done. So tomorrow it'll just be going over the rounds that I'm gonna do, which is 3 rounds I'm fighting. So I'll go over them with my dad on the pads, maybe twice, 3 rounds, a little rest, 3 rounds. I've got to cut back my food now. Always, you know, it's the best part of it. I'm just dying for a burger. But yeah, I've got to cut back my food now. So it's just about going over now the process of the fight sharply and not even aggressively. That push, you need that sometimes to get through training, and to push hard so you know if you have to, you can go all out for that amount of time. But now I've been going bloody 10-12 rounds every day, full blast. I've been running, sprinting, doing the stairs every day, doing, you know, strength and conditioning 3 times a week at minimum. My fitness and my sharpness is up. I just need to now hone it by going over the precise rounds. I don't even need to go crazy doing that. I'm just going to be smooth.
Talk through the system a bit.
But in Mani, and generally speaking in the UK, when I weigh in, is 90% of the people I've grown up with, so it's just sort of like saying hello to your old mates. It's like I said before, it's almost like a high school reunion for me. What is obvious doesn't need to be explained. You know, me and him are both 2 killers, and we're both going to go at it. I'm going to go with the bull and the matador strategy. I reckon he's just going to go with a bull.
60, yeah? 60.2, thank you.
Sweet. I feel ready to go, to be honest. There's no tensity about me. I'm sharp, I'm strong, I'm ready to rock. It's just a waiting game now before I hear my name get announced. I walk out, I do what I want to do in that ring. I fight my fight, I fight to the best of my ability, I smash that guy up, and then I hear this whole arena going, Jonno Chipchase. Yes. Always been.
His promises of the law. Oh yeah. A clever. Yeah. Let's make him bleed, not you bleed. Him bleed, not you bleed.
Exactly, yeah. Giving blood away.
No, I won't have this.
It's not a Red Cross.
Yes, Jacob. How are you, brother?
Well, mate, I'm excited to see you though.
Me and my dad have always been incredibly close ever since I was young. Very similar personalities. We're very similar sort of just as people in general. And we've been in a few situations in life where we've really had to have each other's back. And we always have, you know what I mean? Some people you never know. You can think, oh, he's my best friend or whatever, or blah, blah, blah. And then when the shit hits the fan, you realise that they're not at all. They're not loyal people. But me and my dad have both shown each other and proved that to each other over and over again. So when it came to sort of fighting in the ring and my dad training me, I always had complete faith in him doing what was best for me. I'd never want anybody else in my corner but my dad for that reason. To be honest, he's sort of the guy who, he is the captain of the ship, if you want to use a metaphor. Always has been to me, always will be. So in that sense, it's quite easy for me to listen to him. Obviously, sometimes it's annoying having your dad going like, do this, do that, and it's your coach, and it's also, you know, my manager and everything, so it can be frustrating. But the truth is, we have such a strong relationship that and all of the memories we've built over the years of traveling and fighting, all these experiences, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. When I'm older, and when he's gone, I'll have so many memories to look back on of me and my dad just basically taking on the world, telling it to go and fuck itself and winning. Or maybe not winning, but having fun. So I wouldn't change that for the world. It's the perfect relationship for me, and it's almost kind of like what I imagine every son wishes they had in terms of relationships with the dad. You know, everybody wishes the dad was there for them, was paying attention to them, was caring about what they did, was, you know, had the back, and I'm extremely fortunate that mine does.
Me and Abdallah had a great fight. It was one of the fights of the night. Proper fun and explosive. They're the type of fights that get me going. And he was tough. Yeah, he came for it, which that's what I want in it. So it's beautiful. The show was amazing. Hitman Fight League is probably the best show I've been on, sort of production-wise, how well it was ran. What I learned about sort of the bad guy thing, I think in this camp was I sort of let go of the idea of trying to spin it round again, just let it be. And I think in this one, people kind of understood that the bad guy is just me trying to make the best out of a bad situation, you know. I am playing a role to a certain extent because what we do is entertainment. But who I am as a person, I'm not a bad guy, but I do have crazy traits like what Liam said, you know, me speaking to the guy when I'm fighting him. I never mean to do that. I used to when I was a kid, I never used to remember doing it. And it's just something I've done all my life. I don't know why. It's one of them things which is entertaining, and I'm glad Liam saw it as that, because I've heard people in the past that have done it go, well, that won't score points. Like, I'm not trying to fucking score points by talking to somebody, am I? I don't know what I'm doing. Because now this sort of myth around the bad guy has been created. I don't need to keep leaning into it. If you do, you kind of like you do a Conor McGregor, you become the character almost. And I never want to become the character. I always want to be able to switch and change and do what like Stone Cold and The Rock and shit had to do. You've got to flip it from heel to babyface now and again. You have to have that capability. You know?